Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirrabbilalamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And good mornings to our distinguished panels from Malaysia and Indonesia, fellow lecturers, students, and everyone since today's webinar. First of all, I'm sorry for the delay of our live streamings because of technical difficulty. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mohamad Sofiyuddin Sanusi, and I will be moderating in this session for the international collaborations on academic activity between the Departments of Town and Regional Planning, University Technology Mara UiTM Perak Branch, Sri Iskandar Campus, Malaysia, and the Architecture Study Program, Aisyah University, UNISA, Yogyakarta, Indonesia. After the last sessions of webinar, I would like to welcome back everyone once again, and I hope that you and your families are in excellent health of all. Before we start our virtual presentations today, we open our programs with Quran Al-Fatiha. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have 4 speakers, with 3 of them from UiTM Perak and one of them from UNISA. After the speakers from the UiTM Perak have presented, a speaker from UNISA will then present. Please be reminded that each presenter is allocated 50 minutes only for sessions. At the end of the sessions, we will open for Q&A. Please also note that you may also ask the questions during the presentations. And for those who want to post questions, please do so via our YouTube live streaming chat box platform. However, please take note the questions posted shall be delivered to speakers' attentions only at the end of our sessions. Without further ado, let us now begin with our webinar session for today. Before we start, allow me to introduce our very first speaker. Our first speaker is Geo-Specialist Dr. Nor Eeda Haji Ali. She is a senior lecturer in the Departments of Town and Regional Planning, UiTM Perak, who has PhD in Urban and Regional Planning, University Technology Malaysia. She's area of specialization is on solid waste management, sustainable planning and development, social planning, recreation planning, urban mobility, and projects management. Let us now welcome to Dr. Nor Eeda Haji Ali with her topic for today, solid waste management towards sustainable environments in Asian country. So, Dr. Nor Eeda, dengan segala hormatnya dipersilakan.
Thank you to moderator. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you for inviting me to this webinar. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good morning to all speakers from UiTM Perak branch and from UNISA Yogyakarta, Indonesia. The time given is very limited, and if there are any question, please email me. Let's make this day awesome. I will share the slide first. Okay, I will share the little bit knowledge about solid waste management towards sustainable environment in Asia countries. This is my outline. Okay, introduction. Solid waste management includes the activities and action required to manage waste from waste generation to waste disposal. In some cases, waste can pose a threat to human health. Waste is produced by human activities. Solid waste management is one of the major environment in many Asian countries. Factors contributing to increase the solid waste generated is from first, world population growth, second, rising living standards, urbanization, rapid technology development, and modern lifestyle. Solid waste minimization, let's know, has 3R concepts, is one of the way of reducing the quantity of waste for disposal. Okay, the next slide show the waste management system. In Asia, they have three types of waste management system. First, from municipal solid waste, from the residential, commercial, and institutional sector. And then the second type is from hazardous waste that we know from industrial waste. And the last is from e-waste. So the figures show that waste management system first generate waste from household sector, and then the household will separate, reduction, segregation the raw materials to organic, paper, plastic, and others. After done the segregation, you go to the waste collection by truck collection. And then continue to the waste transfer. Not many countries will have this type of management system because of costly. In these elements, the letters of do the separation with automatic and manual. Automatic is for materials recovery facilities and manual by the scavengers or waste pickers until going to waste disposal. GHG emission in solid waste management are during the process of composting, incineration, and landfill. In order to reduce negative impacts on environment and human health and improve quality of life. This will be a hindrance to achieving low carbon sustainable development. Okay, this slide to show the waste generated from household. The table only show the few countries, few Asian countries like Singapore, Malaysia, Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, and Brunei. So Indonesia is generating the highest quantity of municipal waste with 64 million tons per year, followed by Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines, and Malaysia. Brunei and Singapore are generating the lowest quantity of municipal solid waste. The last column that we can see is for recycle rates that show also Vietnam, Indonesia is the lowest rate for recycle for the target for 2020 around 18 to 20%. This will be hindrance to achieving low carbon sustainable development. So this slide will show on solid waste composition by 2017. The municipal solid waste generated in Asian country is composed mainly of organic waste, plastic, paper, glass, and metal, and others. It has found that 36% of the municipal solid waste generated in Indonesia equal to 60% of the municipal waste is organic waste, followed by plastic 40% and paper 9%. In Malaysia, 45% of the municipal solid waste is organic, followed by plastic 13.2% and paper 8.2%. Organic waste constitutes a bulk of municipal solid waste, offering opportunity of waste reduction. Okay, this table to show that technology used for waste treatment method by 2017 have 5 methods for treatment. First, composting, incineration, sanitary landfill, open dumping, and open burning. That show Indonesia have the all treatments of methods, this method. Sanitary landfill sites are the most common way for municipal solid waste disposal. Composting is practiced in the limited manner, like Singapore and Brunei, because they have the lack of land. The further integrates gaps in recycling infrastructure as well as gaps in technology usage for municipal solid waste volume reduction. Asian countries have limited experience of composting and incineration. This slide show the integrated solid waste management framework. We have the three aspects or three types of integrated solid waste. Is from first from stakeholders. Stakeholders mean from government, local authority, institution, product manufacturers, and others. Second type is from elements waste management system like waste generated, waste separation, collection, treatment, and disposal. And the third is type of aspect on environmental, political, international, financial, technical, and performance. So the policy for the stakeholder includes individuals or groups that have interests or role. All stakeholders should be identified and where practical involved in creating solid waste management program. And then the policy for the elements is include the technical aspect of solid waste management. All stakeholder impact one or more of the element. The elements need to be considered when creating a solid waste management program in order to have an efficient and effective system. For aspect on policy, for environment, legal, institutional, and others, encompass the regulatory, environmental, and financial realities in which the waste management system operates. Specific aspect can be changeable. The next slide shows the dimension to get the integrated solid waste management. We use the Asian country use the hierarchy of waste management system to increase the solid waste minimization. First, the bottom is from 3R concept is reduce, reuse, and recycle. And then the second concept is treatment concept, composting, incineration, and the last one is from landfill. So the three aspects, so aspect one is policy and regulatory. Three aspects need to empathize to get the hierarchy as stated. First, make waste management a priority issue at all levels of governments like regional, Asian, national, and local level of the political and the local community. And then for the aspect 2 on institutional, technical, and performance, a clear, efficient, and transparent institutional mechanism can address gap in the service delivery to the lack of coordinate, overlap of duties, and multi-stakeholder involvement. Design, develop, and implement awareness and technical capacity building programs on effective waste management system at each level of governments. The last aspect is finding promotion on environmentally safe recycling by implementing recycling standards and labeling is required. Government should support the private sector, both formal and informal sector. This is show the gaps on policy, program, plan, strategy, and project level. We have four goals. First, from the waste generated. Second, from the organic method. Third, from the recycle rate. And then the last one is sustainable environmental method goals. So to get the goals. The Singapore show that all this method have in the Singapore country. So the key challenge constraints in Singapore is behavioral change in the community to practice the 3R in their daily life. But in Malaysia, is very lack on sustainable environment. There is absence of integrated solid waste planning and management scheme. The country has inadequate availability of recycling and recovery facilities in local authorities area. Malaysia also lack on enforcement of regulation and coordination between agencies. For Indonesia, it will lack on recycling rates and sustainable environment. But Indonesia have major policy, program, strategy, plan, and projects in place of municipal solid waste. But these are currently not well implemented and enforced at all government levels. The solid waste generated are not segregated but collected and disposed of and burned. Segregation does not happen at the source. So the conclusion is for this gap policy and program, the most countries have a lack of policy and program because did not monitor or inform it. This get reflected in below average collection, recycling rate, and resources recovery for municipal solid waste. However, awareness and behavior is a major issue to achieve zero waste. So this is my recommendation on Asian countries, but focus only the policy and legal frameworks. First, formulation of national policy, quantifying the achievable targets with pertinent time frames. Second, my recommendation is review and updating of the policy between 3 years to 5 years in keeping with the feedback. Further, strategy will needed to be structured as institutional arrangement. And then the third recommendation is identification of responsibility and roles of different formal and informal sectors in the delivery system. And the last one is promoting the formulation of stakeholders in different sectors of the society covering professional, academic, political, and others. My conclusion, the management of municipal solid waste in the Asian country still face many problems. The current regulation system is still lack, and the existing waste management system does not fit the present requirements. The stakeholder of solid waste management and minimization should be connecting within stakeholders. And this knowledge I have shared is to achieve towards sustainable environment or get a better quality of life. That's all my presentation. I'm going to back to the moderator. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you so much to Dr. Eeda for the fantastic presentations. As a conclusion, we know that ASEAN is experiencing and increasing strength in the population growth and urbanization rates. ASEAN countries also have efforts towards waste management, but they are challenged by the various technology, infrastructure, and policy and so far. In addition, generating scope benefits such as what we're calling the GHG emissions reductions, enables the achievement of SDGs, and so far from the waste sector is what we call the progressive approach that ASEAN countries should be continue to be explored. So thank you again to Dr. Nor Eeda. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker will be presented by Dr. Syazwani Ahmad. She is a senior lecturer in the Department of Towns and Urban Planning, UiTM Perak, who has a PhD in Urban Design, University Science Malaysia. She areas specializations is on housings, land administrations and managements, urban designs, landscapes plannings, recreations, and tourism plannings. Please welcome Dr. Syazwani Ahmad with her presentation titled Adaptations of Malay Traditional House Designs Towards Housing, Comfort, and Satisfactions. So, Dr. Syazwani, the air is yours. Dengan segala hormatnya dipersilakan.
Okay. Thank you very much to Mr. Moderator, Encik Mohamad Sofiyuddin. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to all. So I'm Dr. Syazwani. Okay, let me share my slide for today's presentations. Okay, my presentations today is about the adaptations of traditional Malay house design toward housing comfort and satisfactions. Okay, the outlines for this sharing sessions is cover on the introduction, definitions of housing, definitions of housing comfort and satisfactions, factors in housing comfort and satisfactions, introduction to traditional Malay house, concept and design of traditional Malay house, interior space in the traditional Malay house, adaptation of traditional Malay house, and then lastly as the conclusions. Okay, the keyword or main point for this presentation is about the housing development and the housing comfort and satisfactions. So nowadays, house prices rising day by day. These situations makes many people unable to get a house that meets their needs. In other words, okay, they do not have many options to get a home that meets the expected level of comfort. So however, home is a major necessity in life. So the house need to be owned even at a high price. So with high price, of course, the house owned should provide comfort and satisfactions to the occupants. So but the opposite has happened. Okay, to the provision of housing that pay less attention to local culture makes it unable to meet the comfort and satisfactions of residents, especially for medium and low cost housing. Okay, over the past 10 years, there have been few studies on the application of a traditional Malay house design to the development of modern house, okay, including the low cost and the medium housing, with the aims of obtaining a sustainable design that is able to offer the comfort and satisfaction of the housings. The provisions of comfortable housing has a great implication for the quality of life of the community and also to the sustainability of the city. So, definitions of housing. Charles describes housing as the physical structure that can be seen and known as a separate dwelling place for an individual and his family. So in addition, it also serves as a shelter for human from any danger and threat. Okay, Mendelker and Akbola say that housing is both a product and a process. The product perspective sees housing as a residential environment where man seeks shelter, security, comfort, and dignity. While the process perspective, which appear very complex, transcends issues such as dwelling design, provision, maintenance, and neighborhood services and regenerations. Okay. Next is about the housing comfort and satisfaction. So, what is housing comfort? So, let us know about the comfort. Comfort is a reaction to the environment that is strongly influenced by cognitive and behavioral processes. Okay, so aspect of comforts include personal factors, health and well-being, thermal comfort, indoor air quality, visual comfort, noise, ergonomic, and so on. Okay, housing comfort describe the comforts of the occupants toward thermal comfort design, which must take into consideration of local weather factors, interior design of the house, satisfaction with the environment that includes the provision of facilities in the environment and the accessibility of occupants to such facilities such as economic and social. Okay, satisfaction is a process of evaluations between what was received and what was expected. Okay, for the housing satisfaction, it's described on encompasses satisfaction with dwelling unit and satisfaction with the neighborhood and the area. So the concept of housing or residential satisfaction is often employed to evaluate residents' perceptions and feeling to their housing units and environment. Next is about the factors of housing comfort and satisfactions. Okay. Housing comfort and satisfactions factors including the house design, okay, house and space size, space flexibility, space arrangement, space allocation, and the lastly is the lighting and ventilations. There is housing nowadays that does not take into account about the elements related to comfort and satisfactions as a whole. For example, there is housing offered with a minimum size, but offer 4 rooms with 2 of the room does not have a window. Only small window on the top as a ventilation is provided, such as a toilet openings. Okay, these situations raise issues related to ventilation, no contact to the outside environment, and poor lighting. For room with minimum house size, okay, also causes the spaces in the house to be narrow and uncomfortable. Okay, let me share about traditional Malay house. Okay, you can see that traditional Malay house is a timber house raised on stilts. Okay, basically it is a post and lintel structure with wooden or bamboo walls and a thatched roof. Okay, so the traditional Malay house is one of Malaysian national cultural heritage components. It was designed and built by former community, which highlights the expertise in particular aspect of creativity and aesthetics. The design is essential. The combinations of physical and psychological factors, okay, the physical factors such as terrain, climate, and also building material. The physiological factors is that the house erected must be able to meet the needs of society as a place to rest, a place to gather, and a place that provide a lot of peace and comfort. So the house looks similar and blend harmoniously with the environment. So normally it's set in a compound with a small open space in front with simple landscapes and variety of fruit trees planted around the side. Okay, so next is about the type of the Malay house. Okay, there are several types of traditional Malay house design in Malaysia. Okay, most of these houses have a specific names according to their respective states. Okay, we can see there a long roof house we call as a bumbung panjang. So we have 4 types: bumbung panjang, bumbung lima, bumbung perak, and bumbung limas. Okay, so you can see that in the pictures, the bumbung panjang we can found at the Perlis, Penang, Kedah, Kelantan, Terengganu, Selangor, Negeri Sembilan, Melaka, dan juga Johor. So for the bumbung perak, we can see or found at Perak and Pahang. Okay, for the concept and design of traditional Malay house, Lim Ji Yuan, 1987, said that the main cause of climatic stress in Malaysia are high temperatures, solar radiations, humidity, and glare. So, to achieve climatic comfort in the Malaysian's home, these factors must be controlled beside the control of rain, floods, and occasional strong winds, so that the concept and design of the traditional Malay house very closely related to the elements of local climate and culture. Okay, generally, the concept and design of the traditional Malay house is referred to the building material, layout, orientations, ventilations of roof space, ventilation of body level, cross ventilations, wind velocity gradient, vegetation, overhang and exposed vertical area, glare, and also lighting level. Okay. You can see the first element is building materials. So traditional Malay house use lightweight constructions of wood and other natural material. Okay, the lightweight constructions of low thermal capacity holds little heat and cool adequately at night. Okay, so you can see the building material over here is a mengkuang, cengal trees, bamboo, rotan, and also batam leaf. Okay, so next is about the layout. Traditional Malay house are randomly arranged. Okay, this ensures that wind velocity in the houses in the latter path of the wind will not be substantially reduced. Okay, so next is about the orientations. Traditional Malay house are often oriented to face Mecca. So the east-west orientation minimize areas exposed to solar radiations. The next is about the ventilation of roof space. So roof space in the traditional Malay house are properly ventilated by the provision of ventilation joints and panel in the roof constructions. You can see over here, the gables serve to direct winds into the house to cool the roofing space. Okay, so many have beautiful carving and allow light into the house. So in Malay, this cable we call as a tebalayar. Okay, next is about the ventilations of body level. So the body level is the most vital area for ventilation for comfort. The traditional Malay house allow ventilation at the body level by having many full-length, fully openable windows and door at body levels. You can see in the picture the window of the traditional Malay house, quite big. Okay, so it's allow ventilation at the body level. So cross ventilation means the elongated open plan of the traditional Malay house allow easy passage of air and good cross ventilation in the house. Okay. Okay. Next is about the wind velocity gradient. So the velocity of wind increase with altitude. The traditional Malay house on stilts capture wind of higher velocity at a higher level. Okay, this is especially vital in areas where there are plants cover on the ground which restrict air movement. Okay, so the vegetations used actually is a coconut trees and other tall tree in the kampungs not only provide good shade but also does not block the passage of wind at the house level. So you can see the picture. Okay. Next is about the overhangs and exposed vertical area. So for this explanations, we'll cover all overhang, exposed vertical area, glare and also lighting level. So large overhang and the low exposed vertical area, which is windows and wall, in the traditional Malay house provide a good protection against driving rain, provide good shading, and allow the window to be left open most of the time for ventilations. Okay, overhangs in housing, in Malay we call as a cucur atap. Okay, the cucur atap. Okay, glare in the traditional Malay house is controlled by large roof. Okay, the large roof overhang and low window which exclude the open skies from the visual fields. Okay. So the lighting level, the traditional Malay house tend to be underlight. Okay, this gives the psychological effects of coolness. Okay, the underlighting, however, can be remedied by artificial lighting. Okay. So next is the interior space in the traditional Malay house. Okay, you can see that basically divided into 5 main space. Okay, covered porch, a veranda, core house, passageway, and kitchen. This is a covered porch. Okay, this is Okay, this is a veranda, which is we call as anjung. Okay, and then core house as a rumah ibu, and then passageway as a selang. Kitchen is rumah dapur. Okay, this is 5 main space in the Malay house, Malay traditional house. Okay, you can see in the picture the common activities in the Malay house. Space in the Malay house are multifunctional. The use of space change at different time of the day and year. So there are minimal partition or interior walls in the house, allowing for the flexible use of space and for good ventilations and lighting of the interior. Minimal furniture is used and most activities are done on the floor. Okay. So next is about the adaptations of Malay traditional house design towards housing comfort and satisfaction. So modern housing is built using concrete, brick, tiles and other materials that have a high thermal capacity. This material stores heat and radiates it into the house. Okay, other than that, there's another problem caused by the housing design, such as discomfort ventilation, inefficient lighting, and inappropriate space arrangement. However, this inconvenience can be overcome through the provision of appropriate housing design. Okay, by referring to the development of traditional house and taking into account the criteria emphasized in its development, we'll be able to help the formation of better and more sustainable house design in order to offer comfort and satisfaction of housing. Okay, my last slide. Okay, according to Lim Ji-wan, okay, the design of traditional Malay house is almost perfect, which include climate suitability, diversity of space use, flexible design, and sophisticated prefabricated system, such as houses can be raised according to the family needs. Okay, so it's also designed based on the housing needs through the aspirations of the Malay. The housing development is also in line with the social economic, cultural and environmental need of the community. So the adaptation of potential element of a traditional Malay house design hopefully can produce a sustainable housing to the occupants, offering comfort and satisfaction of housing, improve the quality of life and give good implications for housing and urban development. So that's all for today presentations. Thank you and back to the Mr. Moderator.
So okay, thank you to Dr. Syazwani Ahmad for the what we call an interesting presentation just now. What we know, the housing comfort and satisfaction is very important in the home ownerships. Therefore, offering the good house design is what we call in very important to all level of society. Applications of the traditional Malay house designs for improvement of modern housings is what we call in the positive step in the order to offer comfort and satisfaction of the housings. So thank you again to Dr. Syazwani Ahmad. Ladies and gentlemen, our next presenter is Associate Professor Geo Specialist Dr. Mohamad Fadil Abdul Rashid. He is a senior lecturer in the Departments of Towns and Regional Planning, UiTM Perak, who has a PhD in Science Spatial Demography, University Technology Mara. He has a area of specialization in on urban and regional planning, spatial demography, migrations, and geographical information system or GIS. Please welcome Dr. Mohamad Fadil Abdul Rashid with him presentation's title FGD and its applications in a modern rural index measurements. So, Associate Professor Dr. Mohamad Fadil dengan segala hormatnya dipersilakan.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Qala bishrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi. Thanks to Mr. Moderator, Encik Sofiyuddin. So I will show my slide. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I will continue this session with the topic FGD and its application in modern rural index measurement. MAMREC. MAMREC stands for Malaysia Assessment Measure for Modern Rural Development. So basically, this is a part of our project funded by NAPREC, the National Real Estate Research Coordinator in Spain. So Alhamdulillah, this project has been accomplished in October this year. Alright. So congratulations to and very thanks to our research member here, Dr. Kushari Rashid, Miss Ana Kashfi, Mr. Azazi, Mr. Azrul, and our research assistant Hafiz Sohari on the we call contributing to accomplish this research. Alright, for this presentation, I will divide it into 4 sections. Number 1, FTG overview and the building, the understanding of application process and purpose. And number 2, briefly introduction to MAMREC, and then demonstrates the application of FGD for a case study, and then conclusion. Alright, just to pay your attention, basically this session aims to demonstrate the capabilities of focus group techniques in obtaining quick data, ideas, views, and scenario rural planning with a valid quality and fast result. So based on MAMREC's index exercise. So we go to the first section, overview, process of application, and how was the FGD conducted in our research, and why was it chosen. And then there are many numbers of big names in focus group, such as Professor Morgan, Kulger, Dickinson, and many others. So there is a lot of discussion and argument on it. So for today's session, I will briefly explain on the key important points of the FGD. Alright, FGD is a way of collecting qualitative data, engaging a small number of people in an informal group discussion, focused around the particular topic. So in terms of size, strongly recommended is from 6 to 12 people. So this method basically aims to obtain data from a purposely selected group of individuals, which is a context-specific data. So it leads by a skill moderator actually to define the discussion topic, to generate the maximum amount of discussion and opinion, and more importantly, this technique is very special, which is to control the discussion session within the set framework, which is the strength of FGD as compared to other qualitative techniques. Okay, it is very cost-effective techniques, fast result, only within plus minus 2 hours, and very efficient method for obtaining data from participants. So in the environment fields, it has been practiced in many forms, and its application is varied, basically. So such as in urban planning research, conservation research, so I think not excluded in the architecture related project. So urban planning, since when I have no idea, but maybe in the parallel to the introduction of advocacy planning theory and participatory planning theory, which is people-oriented or concentric planning approach. So now it is a contemporary popularity in social sciences research because of its flexibility and is adaptable to any stage of the research. So it can be used in 2 ways, either a stand-alone qualitative method, such as to explore new research area, or a combined method, which with quantitative method, such as to provide preliminary result or to clarify findings of other method. So it is very helpful for getting information to answer, especially the question why and how. So when is FGD be used? So from the literature, is actually it often be used in the stage of preliminary stage. But of course, there's no limitation. It is acceptable to be used at any stage of research. So in our case, we have applied this technique at the last stage of our research. All right. So step of application. So as suggested by scholars in this area, so basically they have divided into four stages. So I can show it highlight here. So number one, research design stage, and then data collection stage, and then analysis and report and the result. So here I try to make it simple, so that at the design stage, of course we have to formulate very clear objective, and then design appropriate instrument such as simple question, assessment form, and etc. to ensure the quality and analyzable of the data obtained. And then of course we have to select the correct target group, and then a venue, and then decide numbers of participants. So at the second stage, which is implementation stage, of course we have to make it familiarize, to bring a briefing session with participant. For example, to what we call to introduce the objective of the research, and to explain about the FGD exercise, so that to ensure that all participants are comfortable and engaged with the discussion throughout the session. And then we need to have good moderating during the session. And then at the third stage, analysis stage, we can use coding techniques to analyze the data, content analysis, thematic analysis, and so on. And at the result and reporting stage, we can produce a report, article, journals, or any others. So how was the FGD conducted in our research, and why? So every method has its basic operational principle. So, but still, there is room for adjustment or modification to meet the research intention. So, of course, the researcher must be clear about where is it appropriate or not. So, often FGD be used for exploratory research. But in our research, we use it at extra. I call it extra exploratory by means. It was conducted using a modern rural index form, which is MAMRE at the final stage. And then the researcher as the moderator, is helping by the assistant moderator, with a target group case study. And then at the stage analysis and result, we have produced an index measurement and researchers talk reporting. And in our case, we use a combination approach, which is we use together with decision making method, AHP. HP stands for analytical hierarchy process. So why do we use FGD in our research? Because it is an appropriate with the developed instrument, MAMRE, to assess the focus element with direct evidence, and then easy to express idea, especially during the session, to control and to obtain of the data of the research, and then exclusiveness. So one session we can gather many participants. All right, and then it can be used without compromising the quality and validity of the data obtained, and allowing a new exploration of the issue and solution. So now I will demonstrate how was it used in our research. Okay, before that we try to give little bit introduction to MAMRE, process of development, modern rural model, and MAMRE interface. So this is a little background. Why do we need to an alternative assessment measure for rural development? We do believe that rural area is our safeguard areas. It's not just for food security, economic resources, and asset. And more importantly, it becomes a future safeguard living area. But unfortunately, rural asset and resources For example, agriculture, entrepreneurship, business, tourism have not been fully explored. So it is a shortfall in reducing a divide between rural and urban living standard. So it then create the element issue of use of migration, especially from rural to urban areas, and cause the lack of human resource in urban area, rural areas, and low productivity. But there is a very great, I think, vision of Dasar Prarangan Fizikal Desa Negara, or the first national physical rural planning policy, is that desa sejahtera, negara sejahtera, prosperity rural, prosperity country. So it is has been putting the rural area into important element in rural and general planning, especially in Malaysia. Okay, next. This picture shows the phases of rural development in Malaysia, indicating in the transition toward the modern rural development. Okay, this slide shows the expectation of our research. Basically, our research is to translate the national rural agenda into urban form to synergize rural area in line with the global development agenda, especially SDGs. And then this is the conceptual process of designing a modern rural framework. So we have divided into 3 stages, right? So number one, first stage, basically review the contemporary concept in rural development. Here we have focused on smart village. So in the end, we come out with assessment criteria. And then the second stage, content analysis of the Dasar Prarangan Fizikal Desa Negara on the relevance trust. And then in the end, we okay, basically this policy is focused on livable and resilient concept. So in the end, we come up with key assessment criteria. And not forget, we also look at what we call Dasar Pembangunan Banda, rural development policy on the relevant policy and strategies. So in the end, we come up with at the later stage, we come up with the framework of modern rural development. That a combination of 3 concepts, which is resilient, livable, and smart concept, with a comprehensive assessment criteria that centered to the MPK case initiative plan. MPK case stand for Majlis Pengurusan Komuniti Kampung, or we call JKK, like that. Okay, this slide show the what we call more detail about the process. So here just to note the process of we come out with the model. So before we come with the model, our model here. So the framework we have developed, and the set of assessment criteria have been gone through a validation process by expert. So waiting assessment through HP lah, so that it is to make sure that our model, our framework, is acceptable and impactful for the rural development. Alright, this is our model. We call modern rural model. Based on three, we call dimension objective measure. So number one, rural economic boosters and catalyst infrastructure that represent resilient concept. And then number two, rural characters and social well-being infrastructures represent livable concept. And then the last one, smart and green technology practices that represent smart. So this model is aimed at synergizing for rural change to the enhancement of rural local asset-based economy, infrastructures, and technology practices. So these are the 8 principles to materialize the model, government and private responsive in providing the rural infrastructures and technologies. And then very important, empower rural local asset-based economy, agriculture, entrepreneurship, tourism. And then here, technology-driven local productivity. So based technology and use as a catalyst driven modern rural development. and massive rural product marketing and rebranding and solution to the real problem. This is our model. Okay. This is the more detail about the model. So just skip. Okay, what is MAMREC? What is MAMREC? So MAMREC is the translation form from the modern rural model into an assessment measure that incorporates the national rural agenda and smart technology practices, building with three main elements. Which is a three-dimension objective measure, 13 criteria group, and 141 assessment criteria. So towards synergizing rural change with the modern approach of rural development, meeting the rural community desires as well as youth people within the world challenge globalization era. This slide show the strengths and abilities of the MAMREC. So just what we call skip it. And then this what we call the structure of the MAMREC So based on three what we call three dimension. So each dimension in turn comprise the criteria group and criteria, and all dimension having given weighted value according to their what we call relative importance from one to another. And it goes same by to the what we call criteria group. Okay, so in the end of the exercise, a village would award rating star or star rating from 0 to 6, which what we call the score from 0 to 100. Right. Then we go to the very important section, demonstration of the FDG application. So I cover section. We have 3 sessions, and the result. So result we have divided into what we call three component: validation, overall index, and intervention strategies. All right. So for this discussion, we just focus the result obtained from first one case study, which is in Kampung pada Rumbia. So why this kampung has been selected? So it categorized under the rural area. 70% of the its land use are forest and agriculture area. So more importantly, most of the people involved in agriculture or rural related activities. And then it became a pioneer in the smart village project. Here is to cater to flood issue operated by MIMOS. So this slide shows the what we call a hotspot for the flood surveillance system. So based on the what we call information, so Kampung Rumbia has a distinctive profile for the MAMREC index exercise. So there are 3 objectives of FGD. Number 1, to validate the suitability of the criteria and measurement set. Then number 2, to determine the MAMREC index for the participating village. And number 3, the last one, to determine issue and challenges and find solution. So to achieve that objective, so the FGD took place in three sessions. So the first one, sharing knowledge and briefing session. Number 2, MAMREC index exercise, and number 3, seek opinion and suggestion. Okay, just skip this slide. Okay, session 1. So basically, is sharing session, sharing knowledge and briefing. It took around 25 minutes to complete. So in this session, is a very important session. So in this session, we have introduced our project and the current progress of the rural development in Malaysia, and then we have explained how are we going to conduct the measurement of the MAMREC. All right. FDG what we call participant involved, 10 members, penghulu, we call village development advisor, head of village, secretary, treasurer, bureau wanita, bureau belia, and then also 2 from the successful entrepreneurs lah, and plus us as a researcher. All right. And then number two of session 2 is the memory application. So it took what we call 1 hour to complete. So in this exercise, we will ask the participant to respond to the availability of 141 criteria. So if yes, we give 1 mark. So if no, let it a blank. And then at the same time, the participant can provide a remark either on suitability of the criteria, practicality, or difficulty to answer, or status or progress of program implementation. Okay, this is the assessment form we developed in Excel format. So we go through it one by one after the last. After the last, all right. And then the last session is seek general opinion and suggestion. So here we will ask the participant to give their opinion on issue and challenges, especially the issue that they face but in their village in relation to rural development and their livelihood. And number 2, the suggestion to how to manage the issue. It can be the aspiration and solution and intervention strategies. Okay, we come to the result. Okay, result 1. So the result number 1, the validation of memory criteria. So they ask these are the refined criteria after the validation process. Here we have identified six criteria to be refined. Say 4 of them to be replaced because it make it to make it more we call local context, such as tourist information center. Itu what we call so we replace to tourist info unit, so more to local concept, local context. And then one criteria to be deleted because it makes confused to participant. And then one to be added, which is micro hydroelectric power for multi-purpose use, because this what we call this project has been practices in rural actor in Malaysia. Okay, we go to the second result, the overall index. So from the calculation, Kampung Pada Rumbia scores 55.9% in the overall index, which can put it into 3-star rating village, and it carries a good scores for the dimension 1. So dimension 1 is referring to rural economic boosters and catalyst infrastructure, and then followed by D2. D2 is referring to rural characters and social well-being infrastructure, and only obtain very small percent for D3. D3 is what we call smart and green technology practices. This is because our new transition to that smart approach. So something need to be done to well perform in the future. So throughout the result, these indicators that the MAMREC distinctively assess the strength and weaknesses of Kampung Pada Rumbia performance with regard to the specific dimension measure. Okay, we go to the last result on intervention strategies concerning the real issue faced by local people. So here I just only three issue are presented here concerning the issue of youth. So number 1, lacking youth with skill, lacking skill training. Village youth are less active and employed youth. No knowledge sharing by the concerning parties, especially on the latest technologies and agriculture equipment. So looking at this picture, I think it is maybe one of the contributing factor that contribute to the issue because our youth people now like to sleep late. Okay, so this is the what we call solution have been given by the participant. So when we went through it, we do believe that if rural actors work closely with the MAMREC, so most of the issue can be well managed because the MAMREC's criteria has been taken into account on them comprehensively. All right. So conclusion. So for conclusion, this paper has demonstrated the application of FGD for exploratory research that centered to MPKK's participation in the MAMREC's measurement. So FGD has shown its capabilities to obtain the first-hand response and data validation, as well as seek opinions and suggestions through the proper process of application instrument. So this paper also provides a proof that FGD would also appropriate to be used for extra exploratory research. So which is to validate process and to obtain the main of the research outcome. The analysis and the interpretation are acceptable, valid, and thus the quality of the research is not compromised. And then thoughtful and creative researcher are most welcome in methodology literature. This should begin forever. So the last but not least, this is the time to build a society based on passion, compassion, and Islamic values to ensure responsible and productive rural future generation towards rural sustainability, resilient, and smart. So I think this is bibliography. I think that's all from me. Thank you for listening this session. So I have uploaded this slide in my research gate. So if you are interested, please visit my research gate. So thank you very much. I pass over to Mr. Moderator. Assalamualaikum.
So, Waalaikumsalam. Thank you to Associate Professor Mohamad Fadil for quite long and fantastic presentations. So the presentation has demonstrates what calling the applications of focus group discussions or FGD for the exploratory research and its capability to obtain what we calling the first-hand response and data validations, as well as seeks for the opinion and suggestions. Thanks again to Dr. Mohamad Fadil. Ladies and gentlemen, our last speaker will be presented by Bapak Adriansyah Rahmat Hidayatullah. He is a lecturer or docent prodi architecture in program study architecture, Universitas Aisyah or UNISA, Yogyakarta, Indonesia, who has what we call in the S1 architecture from Universitas Teknologi Yogyakarta and S2 architecture from Universitas Gadjah Mada, Indonesia, in master designs kawasan binaan. He is also the founder, principal architect, and urban designer for the Naungan Architects. Please welcome Bapak Adriansyah with him presentations titled Heritage Gate as Place Identity with Science of Place Approach, Case Study Kawasan Jeron, Benteng Kraton, Yogyakarta, Indonesia. Bapak Adriansyah, please be invited, dengan segala hormatnya dipersilakan.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good morning, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you to the moderator, to all the honorable speaker and all participants. Today on this session, I will present about my last research, Gate as a Place Identity with a Sense of Place Approach with case study in Jeron Benteng area, Kraton Regional District, Yogyakarta, Indonesia. This topic is my research for my master degree of urban design and architecture study. This topic comes from my restlessness while crossing around the Yogyakarta city with various typologies of gates. Then I feel interested for this case study. This restlessness in line with my understanding in several cases. Looking at the gates in the world, which are quite interesting, and they can become a landmark for the region or city or country. But it is in line to the basic concept of gate, whose main function is to mark entrance to the area from which we can pass but at the gate, which are famous in the world, and the function and the position in the city structure does not indicate the proper role of the gate in urban structure. From this restlessness, I would like to try to understand the concept of few gates in Yogyakarta, which have a similar historical value but are far less positioned than the following gates. The location is in the core of Yogyakarta city, namely the Bentang area in the Kraton Regional District, which is a historical area and heritage component in Yogyakarta. Until now, this area is still being an administrative area of Yogyakarta province, as well as cultural area, high-end settlement, and tourism destination. This area is the main factor of identity in the city of Yogyakarta, with a strong enough function to attract tourists and visitors to the city of Yogyakarta. Among this area, there is a structural component of which is still fortress, with several entrances, which are the main access to the area. However, the position of this gates does not show the regional physical delineation. This is the main topic of my research. And the background is what is the role of the fourth gate Kraton or Plengkong in formation regional identity, to understand and know the concept of as well the role of the Kraton fortress gate in establish of regional identity. And the second is what are perception of and impressions captured by the public regarding Plengkong. Plengkong is another called the gates called through a sense of place approach. Basically, its function is a gate area and the perceived visual image. To understand the extent of that perception captured again Plengkong, a sense of place approach and a potential problem in formation regional identity. Next, this is a systematic in for my literature study, understanding the main concept of Plengkong as a gate function in the past and the present condition. To understand the meaning of the place identity, that word of the sense of time, one of which can be recognized through the city artifacts that have imaginability and legibility values as point of reference. In addition, understanding the city structure is divided to three aspects of the discussion that can become one component with the city corridor as the distribution of movement and the city hall as destination of movement. And finally, the aspects that are understood are analyzed using the sense of place approach to assess the characteristic of the gate through the physical setting or the form, activity, image, and the meaning that is assessed through the form of interaction and the relationship between the gate and the user. The stage of research carried out include conducting a background study on the function of gate and the regional identity, then on regional identity and sense of place related to imaginability and legibility. Research is also strengthened by making a questionnaire. Then from this data, it is expected to find the role of the gate in representation the identity of this city. The Bentang area is one of 78 sub-districts, and the sub-district is an area with the concept of Javanese city with Mataram Islamic Kingdom. Currently, this area is better known for its tourism, history, and settlement activities. Within the structure of this area, there are 5 main gates, of which 7 are entrance. 2 of them are additional access because the development of this area. The Kingdom of Mataram on the island of Java is the city with a concept of a walled city, where the city as the center of government is protected by a fort that known as a Paluwarti Fort. This fortress currently remains only partially and not intact due to the growth of settlement and uncontrolled use space. The few that remain, including the gate, currently read as artifact. From the interview, regional identity through current condition known as area which the cultural and historical asset that become tourist attractor. Apart from that, the remaining fortress can still be recognized by the remains of the city's defense structure, not from existing gate from main entrance. Currently, the gate with a shape that is still identical from its original condition is only found into gate Plengkung Nirbaya, or also called by Gading, Plengkung Gading, and Tarunasura or Plengkung Wijilan near Sentra Gudeg Wijilan. However, the two remaining still do not represent a strong regional identity. This is influencing factor include. This is the following initial description of what the gate fort should be in, where the gate used to be only access to the entry area. Formerly, the fort was surrounded by a large moat, and in every corner of the fort there was a bastion for observe. The gate itself used to have a large wooden doors and bridge to cross the moat, which is the uniqueness of this gate that we can still find now. The gate has an arched roof that look like a hallway. Total, the gate 5 gate is 2 on the north side and 1 on the east side. This is the transformation data of each gate with the factor of the influence that change the perception captured from the current Plengkung is. It's part 3 period. And then this is an overview of the research object Plengkung and a position. This is Tarunasura. This is Jagasura. You can see it's be transformed, and this one still looks originally. It's transformed. Plengkung Jayabaya. This is Plengkung Jagasura. This is Plengkung Madhyasura. This is, and the last, Plengkung Nirbaya. The physical setting condition and the environment that closely crowded with residential and commercial building have an impact on the loss of visibility and the ability of user to recognize and feel different area or of enter different area. In this study, I divide to discussion. The first discussion is divided into 3 sub-discussion regarding the role of Plengkung as the entrance of the area, environment, and the second of environment and corridor setting as the distribution of movement, spatial characteristic, and the last is regarding the visual and function achievement from each gate. This is first discussion. aims to understand the concept and visual interpretation of gates at the 3 different time period, and the result is that the gate function very important in forming initial perception of function activities in the area. From it can show the identity of the region. Next, the understanding was carried out by the assessment parameter by the catching. Next, I try to understanding discussion carried out by understanding the position of the gate with the corridor. It can be shown 3 period. In the first period, 1830 during the early kingdom period, and then 1940 during the colonial and independence period, and 2090 as the current condition. As through the following discussion, it can be concluded that role of spatial corridor setting support the initial interpretation with characteristic form through activities and land use. Its period observation is carried out through spatial, and the role of the corridor in vitality, accessibility, activity control, symbolic factor, responsibility relate to physical, visual, and activity attribute. The final discussion concerned about the visual and functional achievement factor felt by the user since entering the gate, passing through the corridor. I divide to 3 periods. This first period, and this second period, 190-25, and this last period, 2090. The conclusion is from the first discussion based on literature study. On literature study and field observation can be concluded that the gates and corridor become one unit, showing the identity of the area, so that the components are ideally designed together, while the city hall can stand alone in realizing regional identity. This is a result of the questionnaire with parameter are based on cognitive behavioral, emotional, and sense of place approach, while the impression and assess through the form if an open response regarding the place attachment, dependence, and identity. The strongest characteristic was capture and respond and the Taruna Surab Lengkong because its position as one with the corridor that become a culinary tourism destination with Sentra Gudeg Vigilant. And then this is the result of questionnaire. This one is Lengkong Taruna Surab, Lengkong Made Surab. They have a different perception and impression from the questionnaire respondents. This is a pattern of sense of place change to of the gates as a form of place identity. And the last and the conclusion is for the end, here's some conclusion regarding the role of the gate relaxing. Lengkong as a city gate role as a beginning or early interpretation toward function in the area, and this about a sense of place. Through the sense of place can found that the Lengkong still potential in partner establishment of area identity. Establishment of area identity through the Lengkong will be more optimum if supported by management of the physical setting and corridor shape. Space characteristic and experience space will be value recommended area history through the put of the above component to go to the function space in the area that rules as landmark can provide reception and impression as absence of place as identity of the area. The early period of the area is the strongest condition of formation place identity through component, environment, and characteristic. Change that happen, the Lengkong from physical setting space become the cause of declaring its identity, imageability, and legibility. From a behavioral relationship, movement and accessibility activities become the most powerful inner method provide identity perception. Through the 3 characteristic components, and environment. Questionnaire result, Lengkong Nirbaya is a description of identity formation. This is a questionnaire result. This is 2. And the last, I try to make a recommendation from research that the use existing city structure in order to strengthen regional identity about the accessibility, land use near the gate and the corridor, and anything else. And then the following are the design recommendation regarding the use of space around the gate, where the main objective is preservation and processing of the space that can increase activities around the gate so that people can appreciate the historical and cultural values of the region and the city. That's it all of my presentation. I believe it's for my any intentions in delivering topic today. Thank you very much. Time to back to the moderator. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi. Thank you to Bapak Adrian Shah for the what we call an interesting presentations. Bapak Adrian Shah tell us about the journey of to understand the extent of the roles of the gates in the urban structure and the role in realizing place identity, especially through the physical from the artifacts and their historical meanings. How the gates and the city components can create a place identity when it can work together with the city corridors, and also how their physical forms has strong characteristics to give an expressions and interpretation as a sense of place for the user and for the what we calling the visitors. Thanks again to you, Bapak Adrian Shah. Ladies and gentlemen, with all four speakers completing their presentations, now we will proceed with the Q&A sessions. So hopefully every presenter can open up your cameras and your mics to respond for questions. I will read the questions from the first. The first question is to Dr. Nor Eeda. Questions come from Shifa Zamri. The question is, here is a question that I want to ask to Dr. Eeda, which is how to increase solid waste minimization for a country. I repeat the questions. How to increase solid waste minimization for ASEAN country? Is it Nor Eeda? Can you respond to the questions?
Okay. Thank you, moderator. Thank you. This is a good question because you, the participant, understand what is waste management and minimization. So, how to increase solid waste minimization for the Asian countries? So, my idea is three. First, green procurement policy, and then must have the guidelines for design for environment to increase the recycling with the secondary raw materials in manufacturing processes. And then the last one is creating a waste exchange facilities in informal portal of potential waste generators. Countries like Thailand, Indonesia, Singapore have experience in this way. This need to be scaled up and replicated in other Asian countries. Okay, thank you, moderator.
From Bapak Adrian, how to minimize our what we call the solid waste. What about the Indonesia's process? Bapak Adrian, you want to respond to any response to the questions for Dr. Eeda? How to minimize waste, solid waste minimization at Indonesia? Can
I think
we share the experience?
It can be solved with a similar method, right? I'm not really concerned about the waste treatment in the city. I think that's for me.
For us as country, okay, thank you, Bapak Adrian. And next question also to Dr. Nor Eeda from Naim Mohamad Saleh. Is it necessary to improve the waste management techniques? Is it necessary to improve waste management techniques?
Okay, thank you for the question. It is necessary to improve. Of course, yes. We must increase the waste management technique for apply modern technologies in the process of improving recycling or segregation. Automation, maybe automatics system or robotization can help solve this problem. Improving the issue of waste segregation and recycling is important elements to get towards sustainable environmental in all Asian countries. Thank you, moderator.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Reda. I think techniques and technology also important to improve our waste management system. Okay, the next question is from Tom Planner Mohamad Ali to Dr. Syazwani. What we should do to encourage more housing development to apply this kind of concepts in the new housing schemes in Malaysia?
Okay,
Dr.
thank
Syazwani.
you for the question, Cik Maimun. So actually the concept had been adapted by the developer, but can only be seen in the high cost housing. Okay, to apply for low cost and medium cost, maybe can give encouragement and appreciations to developer who can implement this concept in low cost and medium cost. Maybe also have a joint venture, government and development in the low cost and medium cost housing development. Okay, so that is my answer. Thank you. Back to the moderator.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Syazwani. The next questions also to Dr. Syazwani. I think it's not questions, more on your opinions. The questions from Dr. Wan Rabihan Omar. As we know, traditional Malay house to a certain extent is considered fulfilled Green Buildings Index. The issue is there are increasing number of traditional Malay houses has been left abandoned. Do you have any recommendations for governments or NGO to curb these issues? What do you think?
Okay. I agree with Dr. Wan's opinion. So my recommend for the abandoned house is to conserve, like we give attention to the colonial building. Okay, I think our architecture, especially Malay house, is more important to show our identity. So government maybe should give the informations and guidance to the owner to conserve and preserve their house, and maybe with financial allocations from the government. Okay, right now we have Persatuan Pencinta Seni Bina Melayu, maybe can involve in the conservation of Malay house. Okay, thank you.
Syazwani. Bapak Adrian, is it situation is the same in Indonesia, the abundance of traditional house? You want to respond to anything?
In Java, absolutely. In Java Island is not too much concerned about the development in traditional houses, but maybe in the Sumatra, Kalimantan, it's still be concerned about development and using local houses and traditional houses. That's, I think, should be more.
Okay, thank you for response, Bapak Adrian. I think the problem is in other countries same. Okay, we going to the next questions. The next questions is to Dr. Associate Professor Geospatialist Dr. Mohamad Fadil. Questions coming from Azal Fikri. So M.Arch is a great application to evaluate and measure the village developments. The question is, can we all governments, KPLB, use these M.Arch applications as a benchmark to rank the village for future developments and for further actions for MPKK? MPKK is Majlis Pembentang Kolabangsa, is it? You have any response to the father?
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullah. Thanks, Dr. Azal, for the question. So basically, we are welcome for that opportunity. So basically, inshallah, in the future, in the near future, we will approach KPLB for further research on it, and inshallah at the same time we can disseminate our research lah, especially our MAMRET throughout the country lah, inshallah. So the answer is can.
Will be implemented to our local authority, all the Malaysians. Okay, the next question is to Bapak Adriansyah from Hilman Abdul Rahman. The question is, does the developments of sustainable developments have an impact on the cultural heritage of locals, Indonesians or Malaysians? Because many developments and it develops without boundary.
Okay, I'll try to answer this question. In Indonesia, as we know, that the growth in the need of a settlement and spatial use still not well controlled, and there are still many who ignore historical factor is an built environment. The best thing is that we, as architect and planner, with our ability and knowledge, to direct wiser development. I think that's
Okay, thank you, Bapak Adrian. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that's all the lucky questions can be answered by our speakers. So thanks again very much to all our honorable speakers for their presentations today and for answering our audience questions. With that, now we come to the end of our sessions for this webinar. So everyone is invited to join us in our next sessions for the next weeks with more new presenters and interesting topics. Till we meet again, take care everyone, and I ending this session with wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and salam Nusantara untuk semua. Thank you for all.